Hey folks, Jonathan here. This is a piece I picked up quite a while back. I've had it shoved in the back here, and this is a Barret. It's safety service, but it's actually a drum lathe, and this is the brake shoe grinder. And you actually put the brake shoe in, and then this actually turns like this, and it grinds it against a piece of sandpaper, really. But you know, really, we're not going to use that. I don't see us using it, but we are going to use this probably for the rat rod build. We're going to try to, we're going to try to turn the rotor or the drums on that truck, because everything else is going on new, and hopefully they'll be in good enough shape to turn. But I need to go through this thing and want to clean it up, and I've got a bunch of pieces and parts in a bucket for it that normally would hang there, and make sure everything's going to be good and working on it. And I think maybe we'll find a drum to stick on it and try to turn it. Everything's nice and tight and stuck, and it's been a lot of years since this has been used. It was stored for at least 30 years, or a little over 30 years that I know of, and it actually came from the same fella that my big lathe come from. It's at 14.5 foot on center, 1870 Bement & Son, built in 1870, and he had a lot of old machines and stuff, and I ended up with quite a few. I got a rotor lathe too, and I know this is old stuff, and I mean, yeah, it'd be nice to have a new one, but I don't do it enough to really make it worth me buying a new one. If this thing here will work, that's just fine. And it does turn on and run, and seems to be turning good and everything. Sounds good. We'll have to check all the oil and grease, grease it up and everything. But it's working, but I'm not sure. I'm assuming maybe that's how it's supposed to work. Because if I shut it off, I can actually change the speed on it. Pull this out and turn it, and it actually it actually slows it down, and it just grabs like every other. Stroke's kind of weird, but I guess adjust it down until it's out of gear, and then you can move it back. So I think it'll work okay. We're going to do a drum with it. I'm going to get it all cleaned up and stuff, and check it all out, and make sure I get all this stuff unfroze. I want to clean this table up, and I may wire brush that front and that off, and maybe put some red or some white paint on it. You can see it's been painted one time before, so it's not, it's not gonna matter. It's not gonna matter anyway. I mean, it's not collectible to too many people, but of course, besides me. And this stuff was actually bolted down, and we had to unbolt it to get it out from where it was, and carry this stuff out one at a time. And luckily we've saved the bolts that laying there on my toolbox, and so we're going to get it all cleaned up, get it all bolted back on. And that machine there is so heavy I can't move it myself. Luckily, me and my son was able to carry it out of where it was, and it was piled full of stuff, so it was a big job. But and this is not as heavy. It would be pretty nice too to take this off and maybe mount our rotor lathe on this end, and we may do that before it's over with, because this machine actually slides all the way over to the edge, and it got quite a bit of room here. And I did get all the rivet tool, the actual stand-up rivet tool, and I'll show you that. This is the Barret rivet tool, and I've got all kinds of brake shoe linings and stuff to redo brake shoes. And here's the rivets. This is the brass rivets that they use, and these actually go on here. And it's a foot pedal operated, and maybe you can see how it comes down and crushes it. Takes a little weight there, but that's how it works. Crimps it around. But and I haven't used this yet. It does work good, and this has got a drum sander on it to sand the brake shoe, and where that other one's got a disc, and it does turn on, work good and all that. So we may use it sometime, but we're not going to have time to reline brake shoes on this truck for sure, but I want to go ahead and, like I said, get this drum lathe up and running and cleaned up, and I'll show you as I go. Okay folks, I started cleaning this thing and that paint's just flying off of it, and in most places anyway, so I just decided it won't take us long. We can strip it down, we can tape everything off that we don't want to get paint on. We'll just repaint it red. You know, the ways and the well, dovetail ways, whatever you want to call them, and the lead screw, we'll tape all that off, and you know, we'll clean this dial up and we'll go ahead and tape it off and do something about our switch. But I'll show you what I'm talking about on the paint. You know, it's just flying off like it's nothing. So we'll get it stripped off, and then I've got some primer. I'll prime it, and we'll let that dry up, and then we'll get some paint on it. And I did get the light working inside. We'll get all that cleaned up. But this is the light that so you can see inside your drum when you're working. So I think it's going to work really good. I mean, it's a good machine and good and tight, and it's not wore out in any way. So I think we just get it cleaned up a little bit. And you know, it seems like every time I do something like this, I end up overboard on it. So we'll just keep at it. Let me see. Yeah, the belt looks like it's in real good shape too. So get all that cleaned up and cleaned out. It'll take a little bit, but we'll get it, and I'll get it taped off, and I'll show you more. Okay, folks, we've got this thing about as clean as we're going to get it. We get it taped up, and see if we can get some primer on it. The tag, it seems like all I got to do is I was going to wipe it off, but if you about touch it and the black comes off, so I am just going to tape it up just like it is, and hope when I take the tape off it don't take all my lettering off, which I've got everything written down. But paint's about all stripped off. Motor was red too, so we'll paint it back red, and you know, it was really jammed with crap back here, so, but we'll go ahead and get it taped up and get some primer on it and get some red paint on it. And you know, most people would probably have turned a drum on this before they went through all this trouble, but I've got faith in it, so we're going to go ahead and we'll paint it, and then we'll see what happens. Alright, show you more. Okay folks, we've got her taped up, ready to go, and we're going to grab the primer and go to work on it. And let that sit a little while, and we'll get some red on it. Alright. Okay folks, we've got it painted up and got the tape off of it. Looks pretty good. I mean, nothing perfect, but you know, we just wanted to get something on it. I am going to figure out why this thing is running like it's running, of course. You see how it's jumping? Okay folks, this is almost funny. It's made to run that way. I've got another one of these. It's a little bit later version that don't run that way. So I was just assuming that I thought it was something in the actual clutch where or not the clutch, but the speed selector on here. But that's how this one's made to run. And I can show you. There's this ratchet. That's how it turns. But neat. But now we've got to figure out how that thing's changing speeds. Okay. That's kind of a weird setup there. All we got is a cone that turns. Yeah, we'll have to look into this a little more and figure out how it changes the speed. Wasn't any trouble to take apart, but you can see it's got some goop in it, and that oil smelled terrible, so it's time to change it anyway. Not a big deal. And you know, usually you wouldn't tear something apart after you paint it, but it is what it is. You know, it really don't matter. It's just a machine. It's not something we're taking to a show or anything like that. I just wanted to get some paint on it. But we'll look this thing over a little bit more, because I'm still baffled on how it changes the speed of it. And it's different. So we've got to figure out how this all works, but I'll show you when I figure it out, because it sure got me confused though. Okay, I'm going to figure this thing out and then I'll explain it to you when I do, if I do figure it out. Okay, show you in a minute. If you've ever smelled a rear end that's been had the same gear oil in it for, you know, 80 years, that's what this smells like. It's terrible. But we have figured it out. Okay, this turns, okay, and you can see there's an opening in it. And it's not really changing the speed. It's changing the distance that it ratchets. And when you put it into off position, all it's doing is it's actually coming in and holding this. It's holding it back away, and that would be neutral. And then the distance when it goes to, you know, come back is controlled by this. And if you're allowing it to come back the full distance, then it pulls it the full distance. And that's how you get your full travel. And then you know, as you turn it and it shortens the amount of time that this is, you know, dogging in, that's what shortens the stroke on it. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. And you know, it's just didn't take but a couple minutes to take apart. So like I said, it's not a big deal. And I was wanting to clean it out anyway, and it does look terrible. So, you know, that old gummed up, it's been sitting for, like I said, over 30 years. So we're going to go ahead and get it all cleaned up and get the surface cleaned up, and we'll get some gasket material back on it. And I think it, well, actually it's got a good gasket probably on it. I might can clean that up and reseal it, and we'll get some gear oil back in it. And it's got a nice little worm and wheel, same as a winch. You know, they usually last a long time. And the oil level on this thing is actually up to about right here. So yeah, everything below there is in oil, and must have a pretty good seal in it on this end, because, you know, it's not, hasn't lost anything. But got an O-ring on this side. We may replace that just to be on the safe side. But that's how it works. And you know, that's a new one on me. I didn't realize that that they ratcheted like that, or I'm sure my other one don't. And it's been, you know, a long time since I've messed with it. But anyway, we'll get her back together, and then I'm going to go ahead and I still got to clean my piece up that mounts the arm for the cutter. And we'll find an old drum and we'll just see how it does. You know, like I said, that's the first time I've seen that, so we'll see how it travels. I don't know. You know, it was made that way to work, so it should work. Alright, show you more when we get her back together. Dinner. Okay folks, we're finishing up with the last coat here, and got it on slow and feeding it out. And I'll show you what it looks like when it gets out, but I think it's going to have a real good surface on it. We ain't getting any chatter or anything like that, so it's actually working really well. Okay folks, that one's finished up, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but that's a really nice surface. Good and smooth and ready to go. I'm impressed with it. It's done a good job. And we will go ahead and finish the card up tomorrow, and maybe paint part of the card, or maybe paint the whole thing, I don't know. And then we'll get all our tools hung on it and everything, but I'll do another video on that. But I guess this will be part one of the I don't know what you would want to call it. I guess it's the drum lathe, but it's the table for the drum lathe, the roll around. And if we do repaint it, I'm going to try to save that sticker, and we'll get all our stuff hung on it where it belongs, and maybe put the rotor lathe on the other end, and we'll be set to go. Alright, appreciate everybody watching. Bye.